Imagine sitting across the table from your mother or best friend. You recognize their face perfectly, but when you look at them, you feel absolutely zero emotional connection. It is as if you're looking at a well-crafted animatronic prop. Or imagine walking into your living room and realizing the walls, the furniture, and the windows have all lost their depth. The physical world suddenly appears completely flat and artificial, like a cardboard movie set. These experiences are the hallmarks of a specific psychiatric condition that fractures human consciousness. It splits into two core components: depersonalization, where you feel completely detached from your own self and body, and derealization, where your physical environment feels distant, foggy, or completely fabricated. This condition is entirely distinct from psychosis. Someone experiencing a psychotic break might believe the flat world is physically real. But someone experiencing depersonalization has their reality testing completely intact. They know exactly how strange and distorted their perception has become, which makes the experience uniquely terrifying. Operating with this level of emotional numbness takes a massive toll. People often describe the sensation as being a ghost haunting their own body. You hear your own voice speaking to a cashier, but it sounds like a recording. That deep sense of profound alienation makes it nearly impossible to genuinely connect with others, leading to severe social isolation. And this creates a terrifying paradox. The harder an individual tries to forcefully snap out of it and feel real again, the further away reality seems to slip, effectively trapping them inside their own mind. To understand what is actually happening here, we have to look directly at the neurology. This anatomical illustration shows the layout of the human brain. If we look at the base of the brain shown in Figure 10, we find the deep limbic structures, including the amygdala. The brain of someone experiencing depersonalization isn't diseased or broken. It is actually successfully executing an extreme, brute force survival mechanism. This is our primitive threat detection center. When a person is subjected to chronic, abstract modern stress, like severe workplace anxiety, a prolonged toxic relationship, or an accumulation of unreleased tension, this threat center overheats. It becomes trapped in a state of constant, high-alert hyperarousal. The human nervous system is designed to either physically fight a predator or run away from it. You can't physically fight a toxic work environment. So when the brain is flooded with stress signals and has no physical outlet, it trips a psychological circuit breaker to prevent a total system collapse. When that breaker trips, the immediate fallout is a blunt force muting of emotional and interoceptive physical feelings. The brain completely shuts off the internal volume to eliminate the acute anxiety. Researchers refer to this state as phenomenal opacity. It feels as though a thick, invisible fog or a pane of soundproof glass has descended directly between the individual's consciousness and the rest of humanity, blocking out the richness of everyday sensory input. Like an airbag deploying in a car crash, this biological shield successfully protects the brain from the immediate, overwhelming impact of stress, but it leaves the person paralyzed in a cold, empty state of unreality. The problem starts when the analytical part of the mind tries to make sense of this sudden emotional void. The intellect interprets this bizarre numbness as a mortal threat, jumping to the conclusion that the body is dying or completely losing its grip on sanity. That terrifying intellectual conclusion generates a massive, urgent panic signal, which is immediately sent straight back down to the amygdala. The amygdala receives this emergency alert and does the only thing it knows how to do. It pumps out a fresh wave of adrenaline to fight the perceived danger. But the psychological circuit breaker is already active. Because the system is already muted, the brain misinterprets this new surge of panic. It simply doesn't process it as a normal fear response. This flowchart maps out exactly what happens next. Instead of clearing the fog, the brain detects the rising panic and concludes that the original threat is still present. Its paradoxical reaction is to increase the level of dissociation. Numbness leads to intellectual panic, triggering amygdala adrenaline, resulting in increased dissociation. This creates a self-sustaining cycle, a condition psychologists sometimes refer to as existential OCD. The person begins to obsessively monitor their own perception, constantly checking reality to see if they feel normal yet. Every time they check and fail to feel a connection, it triggers another wave of panic, which spins the loop even faster. Logically, fighting the symptoms feels like the only way to cure them. Mechanically, that exact fight provides the very fuel keeping the mental prison locked down. So how do you reset a biological circuit breaker that has been welded into the off position by your own fear? The most effective psychological leverage against this condition is a counterintuitive approach known as radical indifference. Remember, the brain is highly efficient. It won't waste energy sustaining a defense mechanism if it isn't absolutely necessary. Every time a person monitors their environment to see how real it feels, the nervous system registers that hypervigilance as proof that a threat still exists. To break the cycle, the individual has to genuinely accept the feeling of unreality. They must train themselves to completely stop caring whether the symptoms are present or not, effectively starving the loop of its emotional reaction. This absolute indifference cuts off the amygdala's fuel supply. Without the constant influx of fear and panic validating the danger, the internal alarm bell finally goes silent. Once the alarm stops ringing, the final step is somatic grounding. This means dragging consciousness out of abstract existential thoughts and nailing it back down using the physical senses. Touching the rough, undeniable texture of tree bark or submerging your hands in freezing water forces the nervous system to process acute physical reality. Escaping this dissociative void doesn't require outsmarting or defeating your own mind. It requires quietly, patiently showing the nervous system that it is finally safe to turn the power back on.